would you look at that? Made you look. When my kids were little, we would taunt each other with that phrase, made you look. As my daughters got older, it was more like, that was code speak for, do not miss curfew. Now, for their boyfriends, that was code speak for, I've got a gun, I've got a shovel, and I've got an alibi. No, I'm just kidding. They're married and on their own now. But now in this world of social media marketing, I'm asking myself, is anyone looking? Anyone? Is anyone looking at all? Because, as we've just heard, it's important to be known, liked, and trust. And we just ask ourselves, is anybody looking? Well, the LinkedIn feature, Who's Viewed Your Profile, is the perfect feature for being able to answer that question. And we're going to go over 4 key areas that you should take a look at on why you should take a look at this feature. Now, before we jump in, full disclosure, I am not on LinkedIn's payroll, but I do think LinkedIn is the best business development tool on the planet. And in fact, my counterpart on sales is here, Kevin Stewart, and he would be the first to tell you that I often say, if I were running a sales force, I would make my sales force learn to use LinkedIn first before the CRM tool. I think it's that powerful. Also, I do the paid version of LinkedIn. I feel the extra functionality is worth it. There's extra functionality with the paid version with this very feature that I'm going to show you. And so for me, I look at it as a business investment. Also, I log in every day. Now, I've got a day job. I'm not sitting there just staying on LinkedIn all by itself, but I log on in the morning, and I every once in a while, I'm checking it. If you're not on it, you're not in the game. So I use the paid version, and I log in every day. And right now, Dave is going, oh my God, are we getting that on tape? Because that's just like way cool recommendation for LinkedIn. And as much as I love LinkedIn, I adore Twitter. Obviously, I adore Twitter. I have 72,000 people following me on Twitter. And I think blogging is just way cool. Not just way cool, way effective. So LinkedIn, Twitter, blog is the power triangle. And if you're in sales and business development, that power triangle is more powerful than compound interest. So if you're not doing those 3 things, then you're definitely missing the boat. So cross-platform checkpoint. What do I mean by cross-platform checkpoint? These platforms work best when they work integrated. So if you were to look at my Twitter profile, right within my Twitter profile, where I'm tweeting out links to my blog, within my bio is my LinkedIn URL. That LinkedIn URL is like the gold standard. Someone can look at my Twitter profile and know this guy's serious. That's his LinkedIn profile URL there, and I can click on that and bring me to his LinkedIn page where all the great detail that you want to have available there, because people do business with people they know, like, and trust. You're trying to build credibility. You're trying to build that gold standard on LinkedIn. So I'm over here using Twitter as kind of that beginning stage for getting to know somebody, because my standards for connecting with somebody on Twitter is different than my standards for connecting with somebody on LinkedIn. So in this situation, and these first 2 situations I'm going to show you have actually produced revenue for me in the last 2 weeks. So I'm going to show you 2 revenue producing aspects, 2 that are more on the fun side, 2 previous pictures, serious, made you look, a little bit fun. We'll have both. So think of it this way. Started off on Twitter, posting what I thought was really good content. This content was noticed. So the individual starts following me on Twitter. Well, what's really cool now about the Who's Viewed Your Profile on LinkedIn is I'm looking at this new connection on Twitter, and all of a sudden I can go over to Who's Viewed Your Profile and see Twitter drove that traffic to my LinkedIn profile because that guy's picture is the same picture right there. So it's confirming that connection. So we get to know each other first on Twitter. It moves into direct messaging on Twitter. Then it starts moving into email exchange. Then we connect on LinkedIn. Okay, the credibility, the trust is building. Now I'm a business partner of this particular affiliated marketing organization, and it's driving revenue for me. So, cross-platform checkpoint. Don't think of these platforms as standalone. The Who's Viewed Your Profile feature on LinkedIn can validate whether or not these other platforms are driving traffic to your LinkedIn profile. And again, on your LinkedIn profile, that's where you're putting your heavy-hitting stuff. The examples of your blogs, the white paper PDF files, the video. This is where you're really trying to build your content or your credibility, and so helping guide people to that page is important. Okay, the second, forecast future opportunities and connections. Let's just call this early warning system. And I say this in this situation, it doesn't involve moving outside of the LinkedIn profile. But if you look closely at the LinkedIn profile and the Who's Viewed Your Profile feature, you can see people that have been looking at you. Well, in this situation, Robert Jones is looking at my profile, and I'm looking at his. I'm like, wow, it's a senior executive at GE. I'm kind of paying attention. I wonder why he's looking at me. We're not connected in any way. We don't share any common groups. So why might he be looking at me? Well, I hate to be surprised in entering a meeting. I always like to be well informed of who I'm going to be meeting with. So at least for a couple of seconds, I'm reviewing his profile, and I'm just asking myself, what if he happens to reach out to me, I kind of want to already know where he might be coming from. So at least in the back of my mind, I'm already kind of strategically thinking about that. Well, sure enough, a common connection, you know about the feature on LinkedIn where somebody can introduce you. Well, a common connection introduced us and said, Robert wants to talk to you. He wants to talk to you about social media strategy. I'm thinking, okay, way cool. So I've already looked at his connection. I react to the in-mail introduction, and Robert and I connect, and we have our meeting face-to-face. I've already cashed his check. It's already created revenue. So again, powerful feature. And this platform really works. Okay, let's have a little bit of fun now. Re-engage old contacts. We spend a lot of time trying to get that new contact, trying to get that new lead, right? We were looking for the new, and oftentimes we overlook where we've got business in the past, older connections. My background was with NCR Corporation. I was there for 15 years. And in fact, as it relates to LinkedIn, if you go up to your profile within your URL, there's going to be a string of numbers there. And those numbers will tell you at what point you became a member of LinkedIn, numerically. My number is 74,134. I'm one of the first 100,000 people into that platform in early 2003. And early on, I could see that this was going to be powerful. And now, in moving into groups, it's very powerful. You can be in up to 50 groups. Be in 50 groups. That will increase your exposure. But also, there's great power in owning a group. I was the person, having been an NCR alumni, I started the NCR alumni group. It's now the largest NCR group on Twitter. And oftentimes, I don't know all 6,000 some odd people who are members of that group, but I've worked with a good many of them. And so for people who are logging on and active into LinkedIn, every day you see kind of updates and things that they're doing. What I'll do is, an old friend that I had worked closely with, and I just seen they'd done a job change, rather than just blast them and go, oh, new job change, boy, I've been trying to get into that account, will you introduce me? I'll just click on their profile. And then they'll know I looked at them. And then almost always they look back. Oh, I looked at you. You looked at me. I looked at you. You looked at me. It's kind of like, the cocktail party. Kind of look at food. What's the name tag? Okay. I don't have to do anything else other than that. But oftentimes, I'll look at them, they'll look at me, and then I'll send the note. Hey, I noticed that you just changed jobs. I'd be real excited to hear about what you're going to be doing. So even at this point, I'm not saying, can you set me up? Can you team me up in front of them so that I can get some business too? You're taking it in stages. Starting off, I look, you look, then the note, the soft, hey, let's get together. I'd love to hear about your new job. Okay, later on, we'll get to figuring out whether or not there's a place for you to be able to wedge me in to get some business from your new gig here. So this is a very powerful way to be able to re-engage old contacts. And I call it the I look, you look type aspect. And it's very effective because there's just something about the fact that when you're looking at that feature and somebody's has looked at your profile and you go, wow, who are they? And you're looking. Now, you don't want to be spooky about it. You don't want to be spooky about it. And I'll give you a story on that is because I am the owner of the NCR Corporation Alumni Group, one of the factors of the charter is you need to have worked for NCR. That's what alumni is, right? And so they request membership to get into the NCR Alumni Group. Boom, I look at the profile. I'm looking at the profile because I want to see whether or not they have NCR background documented in their work history. That's simply what I'm doing. Well, I did that for an individual, and within seconds, this person jumped on me and goes, Alan, I noticed that you looked at my profile. What did you want? I'm like, well, actually, you requested membership into the NCR Alumni Group, and I'm the moderator for that group, and I was just checking to see when did you work at NCR? So again, don't be spooky about it, but it can be very effective. Okay, finally, I believe that it's very important when you're in that sales business development mode that you want to be found, find, engage. You want to be found. This is kind of in the search aspect. You want, at the point somebody says, I have a need, I have a desire, I have a scratch, you want to be there to scratch it, to itch it. You want to be able to be found. Oftentimes, you're not waiting to be found, you want to find. You want to go out and find people who fit within your target market and try and create the interest, try and use the art of persuasion to get something going. So be found, find, and finally engage. Whether you're being found or whether you're finding, then you want to be able to engage. LinkedIn is a great tool for all three of those, specifically within this feature that we're talking about, the Who's Viewed Your Profile feature. One of the areas that you can look at in Who's Viewed Your Profile is what are the titles or the type of people who are searching for me? Who is it that is looking at my profile? What's their persona? Are they, because I'm asking the question, I want to be found. Well, quite frankly, I want to be found by people who have budget and authority. I need somebody to be able who can make a decision and buy something. And so the fact that 60 founders, partners were part of the group that looked at my profile, I can live with that. That kind of is a checkpoint that lets me know that the way I've set up my profile within LinkedIn has the right keywords and is worded the right way, that I'm attracting the attention of the persona who's most likely to buy something from me. So again, this feature is very, very powerful from that perspective. Finally, just a word, because consultants, we all love to use the term best practices. And I will just tell you from the get-go, if the strategy, processes, and technology you're using is delivering the results that you want, you're happy with that, then you know what? That's a best practice. Keep doing what you're doing. That you're delivering on your best practices. But if it's not delivering on what you want, then you might want to revisit that. For me, the mentality that I enter into LinkedIn, and particularly using this feature, what I've just showed you, these are my best practices because they, you know what, I can live with getting a couple of paychecks like on those first two examples. So I'm not likely to change or deviate from how I do things. So again, these are my best practices. I'm not telling you that that's how you have to do it, or that's the lens you need to look through it, but it's just something to step back and say, am I getting everything I want from this tool, from LinkedIn? And if not, what could I be doing differently in order to do that? Thanks very much.